Hey guys, welcome to my channel, K Fits My Life. I'm going to discuss a part two of the Russian band video that I just made a few days ago. This video has been a little difficult for me to record because it's evidence of the Watchtower's dishonesty, and it's a little disturbing for me to actually have to go through this, being someone with a daughter. So I'm just going to present the information, and hopefully there isn't anyone who has gone through this, but at the same time hopefully there is someone who has gone through this, because it may be something that someone can relate to and can help someone that has dealt with this topic of blood transfusions. So if there's anyone watching that is not a Jehovah's Witness or doesn't know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses, Jehovah's Witnesses do not accept blood transfusions. Now, in talking about this may be a long video, and it's probably going to have some edits in it, because I know I'm not going to be able to just go through this without needing a moment to get my thoughts together. But to start this video off, I want to take it back a ways, and it may seem like I'm going off on a tangent, but I promise I'll bring it back full circle. And what I want to start with is, what is the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses? Now, if you're not associated with Jehovah's Witnesses or don't know anything about them, again, I'll say that. I'll explain what the governing body is, okay? Now, the governing body is a small group of mature Christians. This is coming from, before I start, this is coming from jw.org. I'll leave a link to this article in the description, but what I'm about to read is directly from the Watchtower's official website. I'll put it up on the screen as well so that you can see it. But it reads, what is the governing body? The governing body is a small group of mature Christians who provide direction for Jehovah's Witnesses worldwide. Their work is twofold. The first bullet point says they oversee the preparation of Bible-based instruction through the publications, meetings, and schools of Jehovah's Witnesses. The second bullet point says they supervise the worldwide work of Jehovah's Witnesses by directing our public ministry and overseeing the use of donated assets. It continues, the governing body follows the pattern set by the apostles and elders in Jerusalem in the first century, who made important decisions on behalf of the entire Christian organization. Like those faithful men, the members of the governing body are not the leaders of our organization. They look to the Bible for guidance, acknowledging that Jehovah God has appointed Jesus Christ as the head of the congregation. That's the end quote. Now, here's the difference between the apostles and elders in Jerusalem and the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses currently. Bible scholars and pretty much everyone who reads the Bible understands that the apostles, Apostle Paul, so forth, were inspired by God and Jesus. So those elders in Jerusalem, again according to the Bible, were in direct contact with someone that was evidenced to be directly inspired by God and by Jesus Christ. Now keep that thought in mind. Now I'm going to continue in that same article. How is the governing body appointed? Now, I'm going to jump off that article actually. I'm going to go back to the Watchtower of 1990, March 15th, page 18. This is going to explain how the governing body is appointed. Now, it reads, the governing body are appointed through the Holy Spirit under the direction of Jehovah God and Jesus Christ. Again, in that same article, on page 20, it says, these overseers faithfully seek to apply instructions received from Jehovah God and Jesus Christ by means of the faithful and discreet slave and its governing body. Now, going to the Examining the Scriptures Daily publication, 2007, page 34, it reads, Christ thus leads the congregation by means of the Spirit-appointed, faithful and discreet slave and its governing body. Okay? Now these three quotes are saying that they are directly inspired by Jehovah God and Jesus Christ through Holy Spirit. They are saying they are inspired. Okay? Now, let's skip ahead to 2017, last year. The February 2017 Watchtower, I'll put a picture of the cover on the screen, and I'm going to read directly from jw.org, the Watchtower's official website. This is in the February 2017 Watchtower. It reads, discussing the governing body, the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible. Therefore, it can err in doctrinal matters or in organizational direction. Watchtower Study Edition, February 2017. Now, in 1990, they said they were inspired directly from Jehovah and Jesus. Now, in 2017, they're saying they're not inspired by God or Jesus. Okay? But they're still holding people to the same standard that they were holding people to when they were saying that the words that they were writing came directly from Jehovah God and Jesus, which is completely ridiculous. I liken it to if I were to walk into Apple's, the most profitable company in the world, right? Number one company in the world. I walk into the main office and I say, I walk up to the receptionist. I say, hey, receptionist, Tim Cook has appointed me to be directly under him and tell everybody at Apple what they're supposed to do. Just appointed me. So the secretary is going to say, really? Okay, when did Tim tell you this? And I reply, well, actually, Tim has never talked to me. But Tim told me that I am over all of you. And he'll tell me what he wants you guys to do. And then I'll tell you. Then the receptionist says, okay, when did Tim tell you that? And I say again, oh, Tim's never talked to me. But he told me to tell you this. So the receptionist says, okay, so Tim has never talked to you. And I say, no, he's never talked to me. And then she says, okay, but he told you to tell me that you are over everyone? Yeah, exactly. That's what he said. What do you think? What do you think anybody would say in a situation like that? They would immediately be like, security, we have a crazy person in the office. Can you please come and get them out of here? But that is exactly what the Watchtower is doing. They are telling people God doesn't speak to us, He doesn't inspire us, but somehow He appointed us to be over all of you and to tell you exactly what He wants you to do, even though He's never spoken to us. Now, I don't understand in what world they can think that that makes sense. But I think it's because, myself included, when you're in that organization, you don't really think about it like that. I know people who I've asked directly about this article who are in the organization, and I'll ask them, okay, they just came out and said that they are not inspired by God. How do you feel about that? And I don't think it has even been something that they've given any thought about, because to think about that would mean that you're questioning the governing body, which they have been indoctrinated to believe means that you are also questioning Jehovah God, so they don't question it. But it is, in fact, a very valid question. And it's a question that every current Jehovah's Witness should be asking themselves and their elders and the governing body. Now, what does that have to do with blood transfusions? I'm getting to that. I'm going to put on the screen what Jehovah's Witnesses call the Advanced Medical Directive. And there are two versions. There's a version that I actually signed when I was about 11 or 12 years old, I think. It's the older version. And then this is the newer version, I think, that current Jehovah's Witnesses are using. Now, I'm going to read directly again from jw.org, the Watchtower's official website, and it talks about why Jehovah's Witnesses don't accept blood transfusions. Now, here is the quote from jw.org. Why don't Jehovah's Witnesses accept blood transfusions? This is a religious issue rather than a medical one. Both the Old and New Testaments clearly command us to abstain from blood. Also, God views blood as representing life. So we avoid taking blood not only in obedience to God, but also out of respect for Him as the giver of life. Now, I put that article on the screen and you can see the scriptures that they quote as references to their interpretation of this belief. The thing is that none of these scriptures refer to blood transfusions or human blood. All these scriptures refer to eating animals. And if you're going to eat an animal, that you have to bleed it, which really makes sense if you think about it in the time that these scriptures were written, because back then they didn't have the ability to scan an animal's blood to see if it was carrying some disease that may make them sick or kill them. So it makes perfect sense that they would be told, don't drink animal blood, drain the blood, eat the flesh, but don't drink the blood, okay? Because you might get sick. That makes perfect sense. But nowhere in the Bible does it say anything about accepting an intravenous blood transfusion. It doesn't say anything about using human blood to save the life of another human. And I would say that that's mainly because, again, that was not available at that time. It just wasn't at all available. Now, that having been said, I want to go to a really disturbing magazine that I found in researching this article. In the Awake of May 22, 1994, there is an article, and the article on the cover is called Youths Who Put God First. And on the cover of this magazine are children who died because they did not want to receive blood transfusions. And this was by far one of the most disturbing things I'd ever seen. Actually, when I was researching to do this video and I saw it and I read it, I almost didn't do the video. It bothered me that much that this organization thought that it was noble to put these children's picture on a magazine and write Youths Who Put God First under it as an example of what you should do if you want to be faithful to God. It literally made me stop researching, and I had to just walk away from this for a while. All right. But they give several accounts of children who gave, in their opinion, gave their lives for Jehovah God, when in fact they actually gave their lives for the beliefs of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. Now, the first example they give is of a young child named Adrian. Okay. Now, when Adrian was 14, I'm not going to read the entire article, but I will leave a link to it in the description so that you can go through this. But I'll put pictures of these children on the screen so that you can see what I'm talking about. At 14, Adrian found that he had a tumor in his stomach, and it turned out to be lymphoma. Now, Adrian was under the indoctrination that Jehovah did not want him to take blood. All right. So, of course, there was issue with him being so young. And Adrian was adamant that he did not want to take blood. Okay. So they talked to him, and they found him to be 14 years old or 15 years old at the time, and found that he was very articulate and very mature. And they honored his wishes to not have a blood transfusion. Well, Adrian passed away. He died. And what I found really despicable about this article and this portion of the article is that this is what I'm going to read directly, and I'll put it on the screen as well. This is what the Watchtower wrote about Adrian's death. It says, quote, "His funeral was the largest that the funeral home had ever had. Nurses, doctors, parents of patients, classmates, neighbors, and many of his spiritual brothers and sisters from his own and other congregations. As parents, we never realized all the wonderful qualities that became evident in our son as he endured his many trials, or the kindness and thoughtfulness that were part of his developing Christian personality. The inspired psalmist said, 'Sons are an inheritance from Jehovah. Certainly this one was, and we look forward to seeing him in Jehovah's new world of righteousness, to be established soon, now in a paradise earth. End quote. So it seems that the Watchtower is really making a point to try to show how noble it is for someone to adhere to their interpretation of the Bible and give their lives for the Watchtower, not for God, for the Watchtower. It gives another example of a 12-year-old named Lene Martinez. This young lady, 12 years old, had leukemia. All right? Now, the doctors talked to her and her parents several times. She was vomiting blood. She was losing a lot of blood. So, the 12-year-old Lene asked, if I take blood, how long will that prolong my life? They said about 3 to 6 months. She said, what can I do in 6 months? They said, you will get strong. You can do many things. You can visit Disney World. You can see many places. This is what the 12-year-old said. I have served Jehovah all my life, 12 years. He has promised me everlasting life in paradise if I obey him. I will not turn away from him now for 6 months of life. I want to be faithful until I die. Then I know in his due time, he will resurrect me from death and give me everlasting life. Then I will have plenty of time for everything I want to do. Now, this 12-year-old also was under the impression that the governing body is inspired by God, and everything that she said was based on the assumption that the governing body was giving her words that came straight to them from Jehovah God and Jesus. Then this is what the Watchtower writes in this article, quote, after a long, difficult night at 6:30 a.m., September 22nd, 1993, Lene fell asleep in death in the arms of her mother. The dignity and calmness of that night are etched in the minds of those present. There were 482 who attended the memorial service, including doctors, nurses, and teachers who had been impressed by Lene's faith and integrity. The parents and friends of Lene were deeply grateful that the doctors and nurses and administrators of the Valley Children's Hospital were so perceptive in discerning the maturity of this minor, and that no court case was necessary to make that decision. End quote. So this 12-year-old made a decision based on a lie from the governing body and the Watchtower. Lisa Cossack. I'm sorry, this is just really, really upsetting. This child was 12 years old as well. Um, she had leukemia as well. Now, what happened in her case is she was taken to the hospital and they immediately gave her a blood. They gave her blood against her wishes, and she started to cry about it. And so they finally took it out. So the next morning, the hospital tried to get a court order to give her a blood transfusion. Now there was a trial that went on. I'm not going to read the entire article, but this is very interesting. The attorney was talking to the 12-year-old. It said, they asked her, "Do you want to die?" She said, "No, I don't think anybody wants to die. But if I do die, I'm not going to be scared because I know that I have the hope of everlasting life in a paradise earth." Now, when you go back up, this is what the 12-year-old said as well. She hated seeing someone else's blood going into her, wondering if she would get AIDS or hepatitis or some other infectious disease. But chiefly, she was concerned about what Jehovah would think of her breaking his law against taking someone else's blood into her body. The thing is, that was not a law that Jehovah told the governing body. Again, last year, the governing body came out and said, "We are not inspired by God, nor are we infallible." So that begs the question, would these people have made the same decision if they were accessed, or if they had access to the February 2017 Watchtower that came out and said the governing body is not inspired by God? It doesn't matter if there were 300,000 deaths because of this or one. The fact that the governing body convinced these people that God told them directly that it was a violation of his law for them to take a blood transfusion is a lie. And it is complicit with accessory to murder. Now, I think that in relation to this ban in Russia, any organization that would uphold the fact that it was inspired by God to make this law and ask that its members adhere to this law under not only the threat of shunning and losing your entire family, but also losing what they would believe to be their eternal soul or their eternal life, is one of the most heinous, horrible, and I think it would be fair to say that I think it is the most extremist view that any organization can hold. I think Russia would be, and anyone would be right to call any organization extremist that lied and said our words are from God and you have to adhere to them or you will lose your family and your soul. If that's not extremist, I don't know what is. And for me, it also begs the question, if the Watchtower didn't know, or if the Watchtower knew that they were not inspired by God all the way up until last year, then what prompted them to say in 2017 that they are not inspired by God? It wasn't God, because in order for God to tell them that they are not inspired, he would have to inspire them to hear his words. So that would seem to question, what is the Watchtower's motive in coming out now and saying that they aren't inspired by God? So, do I think the Russian ban is warranted based on what I've just presented? Yes, I do. I think it is extremely warranted. But let me know what you think. Do you think the Watchtower knew that they weren't inspired by God? Why do you think they changed that? Why do you think they changed and said we are not inspired by God? Why do you think, or do you think that they should be held accountable for the deaths of these people who passed away simply because they believed that they were doing what Jehovah God wanted them to do? Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, I really can't say too much more about this article and about this topic because it's really disturbing to me. But I would like to know what you guys think. Again, thank you guys so much for your support, for watching these previous videos that I've made. If you found this video useful, please like, share, subscribe. Let as many people know as possible. I'm going to put links to this article and everything that I've quoted in the description so that you can research what I've researched as well. And if anyone has any stories or things that has happened to them that they would like to share, please share it in the comments. I've gotten a lot of emails from people. I didn't know going into this section of the My Life channel. I'm going to talk about a lot more things than just my life in relation to Jehovah's Witnesses, but I had no idea how many people that I would be able to affect by doing this. And I've gotten a lot of emails from people who have said that they were really moved by some of the videos that I've made, and I really thank them for reaching out to me and for watching and supporting. So guys, please support each other, please. And I'm sorry, this article really bothered me. So please really support each other. We all have gone through a lot, and I think it is incumbent upon us to help each other and to lift each other up and to to keep each other positive, because it's very easy to slip into a very negative place when we think about all the things that we've gone through. So again, please like, share, subscribe, and see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.